I'd like a motion to open 318 State Street because we need to make historic resource findings.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That motion carries. We'd like to amend the motion to add that we have found the historic resource findings. The project will not cause a substantial adverse change in the significance of an historical resource. Thank you. Abstain, that motion carries. Thank you. And now, happy birthday to Mrs. Peugeot. 110 West Sola Street, please.
Now, what do you want?
Everything.
I move.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is preliminary review.
Okay. Let me know when you want me to introduce myself.
Why don't you introduce yourself and give your name for the record and turn that back on? Thank you.
Okay. My name is Jeff Gorell with Lindvik and Minor Architects, and I'm here representing it's a Magellan's property. It's the McManuses and the Carneros, the original founders of Magellan's, and they've since sold the business and we're looking to retire downtown. I'll mention that to you since it's been a while since I've been here. We were sent off to the staff hearing officer, and through that process we were required to do the initial study, which took a while, about 6 months or so, and found this to be a far superior project to the existing building that is there. This will be I think our fourth visit to you as a reminder of our path leading up to going to the staff hearing officer. Been in the process for about 2 years, and I would like to just give you a general overview of the project just as a reminder, and then see if we might possibly be able to get a preliminary approval so that I can put some draftsmen to work and continue on. The owners are getting older and would love to finally realize this and live downtown. As you might recall, this is a project where we have some commercial on the ground floor and some parking. And then on the second level, there's 4 residential units. 2 of them will be occupied by the owners of the property. And on the third floor, each will have a bedroom and a bathroom and some outdoor living space. We chose in the beginning, recognizing this as next door to some historical buildings. The setback off of Chapala Street became important to open up the view of the Mortimer Cook building. The setback along Sola Street, as we worked with you, we ended up kind of mirroring some of the setback to the Upham Hotel and increasing the landscaping along there. We were requesting a modification adjacent to the Upham Hotel driveway, their trash area back of house, and it's because we're a commercial zone adjacent to a residential zone, which in fact we're residential adjacent to a commercial operation. We had a 5-foot setback along there. Through the staff hearing officer process, we've increased that setback to 10 feet. The northerly neighbors of the Mortimer Cook building have expressed a continued concern about the privacy issue between our patios and the functions that they have in their parking lot and so forth. And we worked with them to alter that elevation. We actually flipped some of the floor plans to the opposite side, which I'll walk you through. And in the end, the northerly neighbors, I believe, through our negotiations with them, were quite happy with the project, and the staff hearing officer became quite happy with the project, and we hope you will be too. The square footages have reduced by about 12% from what you had seen before, so the setback increased to the Upham square footages and mass have reduced. The changes from the last HLC, as I mentioned, the greater setbacks and the third floor plate height, we had at 9 feet, and you asked that I reduce that to 8'6", which I did. I'll walk you through the privacy issues with the neighbor to the north. And ultimately, we've ended up on this site, which is less density than the allowable by a good amount. We've actually worked out where we've got about 27% landscaping to the site. So let me walk you through some of the changes. So this is our ground floor, and as a reminder, the commercial hasn't changed. We have a 15-foot setback, and then about another 10 feet or so of single story, and then it goes up to 2-story and a little bit of third story here. So this is all landscaping to the corner, and then we wrap with landscaping again about another 9 feet through here, and then 5 feet of landscaping with a sandstone wall that it will match the streetscape of the neighborhood with the Upham Hotel and other properties. So you have a rhythm of entries along Sola Street here. By pulling another 5 feet back on this setback, being with the number of cars, we're allowed to have a single entry, and that afforded us more landscaping. We had a double entry that's reduced to a single entry here. And then this is all landscaping facing the Upham driveway. As part of what we'd worked out with the neighbor to the north, we broke up the rhythm of this wall by creating an indent here for a planter and a tree. And there's 2 small patios above here, so that worked out there. And we've introduced a wrought iron rail along the property line here that will have some type of landscape vining that they would like to have for some screening to the commercial property here. Second floor, it's been a while, so tell me if we need to pull out the old drawings to see, but there's a substantial change through here on the second floor where I had the living areas here and a pathway through to the outdoor living spaces for these 2 units. We flipped this around. We reduced the size of the patios so that our living room, kitchen, dining room is facing Sola Street for these 2 center units with actually smaller patios. And then we've reduced and set back quite a bit more. We had railing against the property line here, and now we've lowered that, and we have roof with the smaller patios pulled much further back. The neighbor was sensitive to windows facing them, so we've adjusted that for greater privacy for them. The one outdoor patio on Unit 4 we kept on this side, and then we have a higher wall here, so this will be more like a Spanish courtyard here that'll be open with glass to the interior spaces of the dining room, kitchen, and living room. Going up to the third floor, you have bedrooms and bathrooms for 1, 2, 3, or 4 units, and then we've defined further the outdoor living space for each of these. So there's a small amount of third story, and as you can see from the roof below, which is the second floor and first floor roof area, we have a considerable setback and a nice rhythm happening to those third floor units, which I believe you were okay with the last time we were here. Roof plan. And these are the elevations. My challenge was to stay as much with the elevations that you appreciated when I was here before, and then flip those 2 center units, which created some outdoor living space that faces Sola Street. We're pretty much the same along this elevation facing the Chapala Street. Robert's looking, so I'll hold off.
That's descriptive.
Okay. This is where the real change is made, other than what I described on Sola Street. Here was facing the northerly neighbor, which your recommendation was to create a solid wall higher along the property line. The neighbor didn't care for that idea, and the staff hearing officer agreed with them. And that's when we radically got in here and made some changes to lower that wall, create an indent with some landscaping, and pull things back so that we've broken that up. And then the third floor railing, the neighbor wanted to have a 42-inch solid railings where I had them open. So now I've created this, a tile indention into the plaster. And that's the change. Last time we were here, the comments that you had made, they appreciated the improvement to the project, and the majority of the commission found that the setback modifications were acceptable. The mass, bulk, and scale was acceptable, and the project is compatible with the neighborhood, which the staff hearing officer found to be true, but we've since brought that down even more. Your fourth comment was the 9-foot plate height is too high. That was on the third floor. And you would support a maximum of 8'6", which I've brought those down to 8'6". And then regarding we talked about the privacy issue, and I explained what I had done there. And the comment number 6 was there should be more variation with the commercial to the residential. And I think we've addressed that in this elevation with this iteration. And I had a solid wall facing the Upham Hotel here. I've reduced that mass at the corner down to 1 story and then stepped up and greatly reduced the amount of 2-story that I had facing the Upham with a patio and roof off of the backside. And then I took the opportunity to open up the end of the parking garage here. We've got that 10-foot setback now with landscaping here, and I felt it would be nice from inside the garage to appreciate that landscaping and get more light and ventilation into that as well. And I've got sections back here if you need to see them, but that is it, really.
Thank you.
And we would request, if at all possible, a preliminary approval tonight, if you should so choose, and then I could come back with the detail in progress and colors.
Thank you. I'm going to open this to public comment. I do have a request from Mr. Gradine.
Madam Chair. Kirk Gradine, Banning Architects, representing the Institute of World Culture, which is to the north of Mortimer Cook House. And
I've got this one.
There are nods on.
do I have to repeat that? I'm representing the Institute, which is the property to the north, and basically just wanted to express our approval and appreciation for the McManuses, the owners, and Jeff working with us to modulate and modify the elevation and plan in relation to the Institute to help address our concerns regarding privacy and aesthetics along there. So we're very much in favor of the changes that have been made. And I just noticed one thing today while I was looking at the screen. It's a very minor point, but I was noticing that the way this balcony is detailed on 2 elevations is different because of the way the roof comes up. So I believe on this side it's completely solid plaster, and then it turns the corner and it has this detail in it. I'm just, since you both see that in both those elevations at once, it maybe something should be done there to make them more uniform, it seems, to around that corner. But other than that, we're very happy.
Thank you.
Well, he's got a sharp eye. I noticed that when I flipped open the drawings. That's a drafting error.
Okay. I'm going to ask for questions from the commission.
Did you ever get a landscape plan prepared for this project?
No, we didn't.
Okay.
We had chosen, Robert, to and because the landscape areas were so well defined and worked out with you, we chose to go ahead and get through the staff hearing officer.
I'd say. Okay.
Proposal through
All right.
here, and then we'll be back.
Thanks.
I have one question.
Yes.
Is the garage mechanically ventilated
It'll have to be.
and no way around that?
It's a tremendous amount of opening
I know it
that's
has to be.
required. Yeah.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? If there are none, we'll take comments.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I think the garage should be... No. Go to that elevation one sheet back. The void of any openings as you're walking along the sidewalk on Sola Street bothers me. It's very inhuman. It's almost like you're going past Magellan's or something like that. And if you could maybe bring something down from that balcony just to try and alleviate that harsh line that goes across here and break that line. Maybe one window going back into that parking there, you could make sure it doesn't, you can't necessarily see that, but it just needs a couple of openings or indentations or something along here, in my estimation, to make this a more human experience as you walk across there. And one way would be to bring this plaster down. You've done it a little bit, and I don't know. I know this doesn't protrude out that far, but if you could just try and get some playfulness along here, it would help it immensely, I think. Other than that, I think you've done a very good job, and we appreciate you working with the property to the north, and it's a very nice project.
Thank you.
I want to make a suggestion regarding the landscape. Appreciate the additional landscaping from the last time we saw this, but here's a great opportunity to again make this elevation more human, more. I would say the theme of the landscape should be bold and beautiful, and drought tolerant. And this is a big opportunity. If you're working with any of the street trees here, you want to check in with your landscape architect. I realize that's down the line. We'll want to work with the street tree committee because I think organization is happening on street trees in this area right now. Let's see, and remember, landscape theme-wise, the Upham Hotel is nearby, so there should be some dialogue of something so they relate, even though the architecture is very different. Doesn't mean they have to be the same. That just means those design elements can have a dialogue.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Seeing none, I think the summary of the comments is pretty brief. We very much appreciate working with the neighbor, and you now have a project that is probably ready for preliminary consent. I'll wait for a motion, but we would like a suggestion regarding the street elevation, their south elevation, that you vertically integrate your stories a bit more by either creating more indentations, more openings, or having a bit of fragmentation of that line that's created by the balconies, as well as using the power of landscape. As Mr. Adams said, bold and beautiful and drought tolerant along this, I think will make a great difference.
I guess I would make a motion for preliminary approval. Second. With those comments.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Abstain?
Prelim, and that's going to, no, it's done. So prelim to what, full board consent, 2 weeks.
Oh, it'll take more than 2 weeks.
Well,
Indefinite?
Yeah.
yeah, indefinite continuance to full board with the working drawings, final drawings, whatever that process is.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain? Opposed? That motion carries. Run while you...
I would like to reiterate one more time that anytime you can not mechanically ventilate garages, the cost, the monthly cost, the ongoing cost should be looked into because it's staggering
I agree.
to run those fans 24 hours, 24/7.
I agree. Yeah.
And
And
where does
kick on with an oxygen sensor or something?
I have no idea.
Motion to adjourn?
Yes.
So moved.